Thank you very much, Madam President. Madam President, the selection of a person to fill a Supreme Court vacancy is an historic moment in Washington. This is the 7th time I will be in a position to at least meet someone who is aspiring to that position. And I've had opportunities with each one of them to ask some questions before the formal hearing. I hope I have the same opportunity with the current nominee, Judge Amy Coney Barrett. What is different about this particular moment is the fact that we know that there is an issue at stake here, and one that is likely to be decided almost immediately by the new Supreme Court justice. It's the only explanation I can find, perhaps one other, the only two explanations I can find as to why there is this hurry to fill this vacancy. You see, it was 4 years ago when there was a vacancy on the Supreme Court with Anton Scalia's death, and that occurred in the February before the election, that Senator McConnell, then the Republican Senate leader, argued there was no need to hurry. Why hurry about it? Leave the vacancy on the Supreme Court. Wait until after the next presidential election. Let the American people decide who will be filling that vacancy. He made that argument despite the clear history in this chamber that did not support him. And he won the support of his position by every Republican senator. They went so far as to say that if President Obama, in his last year in office, nominated someone to fill the Supreme Court vacancy, they wouldn't give that person a hearing. Well, the President Obama, in his last year of his presidency, nominated Merrick Garland, a person who is widely respected as the chief judge in the D.C. Circuit Court, the second highest court in the land by some measure. And Merrick Garland came to Capitol Hill in the hopes that he would get his day in court, so to speak, in the Senate. But Senator McConnell said, no way. Words out, Republican senators, don't meet with him. A couple broke his rule and met with him anyway. But the word was out not to even give him the courtesy of a meeting 4 years ago. And so Merrick Garland never had his day before the Senate Judiciary Committee, and his nomination departed with the presidency of Barack Obama. Senator McConnell had prevailed. His new theory on how the Senate should treat Supreme Court vacancies prevailed. Every one of his soldiers on the Republican side marched in lockstep with this theory. Well, guess what happened 4 years later? An incumbent president had a late vacancy on the Supreme Court with the untimely death of Ruth Bader Ginsburg just a little over a week and a half ago. And the obvious question to Senator McConnell is, will you be consistent now and say that that vacancy should not be filled until a new president is elected, and that president should have the option to fill it? And Senator McConnell said, of course not. It's not to my political advantage. He didn't add those words, I did. Not to my political advantage. I'm going to change this hard and fast rule of 4 years ago, and I'm going to ask all of my Republican senators to march before a camera and a microphone and to look down at their shoes and say the position they took 4 years ago, they are abandoning today. And all but two of them did it. All but two of them walked away from their pledge that they were under the old McConnell rule. That McConnell rule was stated in just a few words. Here's what Senator McConnell said 4 years ago. The American people should have a voice in the selection of their next Supreme Court justice. Therefore, this vacancy should not be filled until we have a new president. The McConnell rule was thrown out just a few days ago. Why? Because it was to Senator McConnell's political advantage to fill this vacancy, and to the president's, and not to wait for the outcome on the November 3rd election. So what's the issue? What would cause Senator McConnell to change so quickly and to ask all of his loyal Republican senators to go through the embarrassment of recanting the position they took publicly 4 years ago? What is the big deal, Senator McConnell? Well, it turns out we know what the big deal is. It's the Affordable Care Act. To paraphrase the senator from Arkansas, Dale Bumpers, the Republicans and President Trump hate the Affordable Care Act like the devil hates holy water. They have tried every imaginable way to eliminate it, to change it, to water it down, to discourage it. 50 different votes in the House of Representatives to eliminate the Affordable Care Act, and were it not for the Democrats in the Senate, they might have had some luck at doing that. But it didn't work. And so they tried it on the Senate floor under reconciliation. They thought, here's our chance. We just need a majority. We should be able to pull this one off. And we had this historic moment just 2 years ago when at 2:30 in the morning, John McCain came through those doors and with his no vote and the vote of 2 other Republican senators, saved the Affordable Care Act. Imagine the frustration of Mitch McConnell. Here was his moment to finally drive that dagger deep in the heart of the Affordable Care Act, and John McCain voted no. What was he going to do to get this job done? Well, it turns out he figured he'd get it done across the street in the United States Supreme Court. So 14 Republican state attorneys general filed a lawsuit to eliminate the Affordable Care Act, and then the Trump administration said, we're on board too. Let's get rid of it completely. And off they went through the long, treacherous journey in the courts all the way up to the Supreme Court across the street. And guess when the argument is scheduled to be heard? 7 days after the election. So you wonder why there's such a hurry to put another Supreme Court justice on the court who also opposes the Affordable Care Act? And make no mistake, President Trump made that one of the conditions of employment for anyone he would name to the Supreme Court. You have to be ready to march right in there and put an end to it. So if we can vote under Senator McConnell's timetable on or before the election, November 3rd, the new Supreme Court justice sworn in her black robe, ascends to the bench in the Supreme Court on November 10th, listens to the oral argument on the Affordable Care Act, and then a few weeks or months later, puts an end to it. That's why we're in such a hurry. Because if that Supreme Court vacancy is not filled by November 10th, then whatever person is chosen, they couldn't vote, as they do by tradition, could not vote on the actual outcome of the case in the spring. That's what this is all about. As someone told me long ago in this business of politics, there's always a good reason, and then there's always a real reason. The real reason for the mad dash of the Senate Judiciary Committee to fill this Supreme Court vacancy, the real reason why the Republican senators were asked to march in lockstep and say that what they pledged 4 years ago meant nothing today, the real reason was to put an end to the Affordable Care Act. Let me tell you a story, if I can, about the Affordable Care Act. I voted for it, proud to have done it. 20 million Americans have insurance because of it, 600,000 in Illinois, and I might add protections for people all across America. Let me discuss one of the protections, the Affordable Care Act, that will go away and be eliminated if President Trump, the Republican Attorney General, and the Republican senators who are supporting Mitch McConnell have their way. Here's one of the provisions in the law. Here's the story. A couple of years ago, Tom from Palatine, Illinois, suburbs of Chicago, wrote to me about the Affordable Care Act. At the age of 30, show a picture here. Hope this will stay up here. I think it will. Well, I'll just hold it. At the age of 30, Tom, married with dreams of fatherhood, was diagnosed with cancer, a tumor in his chest. He underwent 20 rounds of chemo and major surgery to remove the tumor. Thankfully, after that, he was cancer-free. There's Tom in his better days, racing to Wrigley, and there he is, fighting his way through cancer in a hospital bed. How much did it cost him for all of that care? $2 million. $2 million was the bill. Now, before the Affordable Care Act, insurance companies imposed arbitrary annual and lifetime limits on how much they would actually reimburse a patient for medical bills. If you pass that limit, you're on the hook personally. That's why for years, medical debt was the leading cause of bankruptcy in America. A fellow like Tom, racing along here, looking as healthy and fit as possible, ends up with a cancer diagnosis and goes through months and months of therapy and a bill of $2 million, and the insurance company said, it's all yours. There's a limit in your policy. That's the way it used to be before the Affordable Care Act. The Affordable Care Act put an end to those limits. And without those protections, Tom wrote to me, he would most likely have capped his coverage and be bankrupt. Pretty clear. Thousands of other Americans could also be right there with him without the Affordable Care Act. Although Tom wants to continue working and contributing to society, he said he's scared to death. He's terrified, in his words, that protections for pre-existing conditions would be ended. See, Tom, having defeated surgery and declared this great victory, and I'm sure his friends and family couldn't be happier, is now branded by the insurance companies as a man with a pre-existing condition. In the old days, before the Affordable Care Act, good luck, Tom. Good luck, because if you had a pre-existing condition, and almost anything would count, acne, asthma, being a woman who might get pregnant, on and on and on, you were subjected to higher premiums, maybe even no insurance at all. Those were the days before the Affordable Care Act. And now, President Trump, the Republicans' attorney generals, and the Republicans in the Senate are duty-bound to send a new Supreme Court justice in to put an end to that protection, to put an end to the Affordable Care Act. They are so determined to get rid of Obamacare at any cost, they could care less about Tom and people just like him with these lifetime limits. If the Affordable Care Act is struck down, insurers could once again deny coverage to millions of Americans with pre-existing condition. That isn't all. The Affordable Care Act also made it clear that if you're a family with a son or daughter who goes to college, comes out of school, looking for a job, maybe taking that gap year, maybe taking an internship, but likely not to have health insurance, the Affordable Care Act says, don't worry. Until that young man or young woman in your household reaches the age of 26, they can stay on your family health insurance plan, a provision of the Affordable Care Act, and a provision which a lot of families count on. Our family needed something just like that when a daughter graduated college and didn't have health insurance and assured me she sure didn't need it, she was so healthy. Well, that's scary talk for a parent to hear. But when it came to the Affordable Care Act, we would have been able to keep our young daughter under that policy, our family policy, for a period of time. The Republicans want that to go away with the Affordable Care Act. And you say to yourself, well, clearly, Durbin, you're not telling the whole story. You're not telling us what the Republican plan is to replace the Affordable Care Act. And it's true. Guilty as charged. I am not describing to you the Republican alternative to the Affordable Care Act because it doesn't exist. It does not exist. That's why John McCain and two other Republican senators said you can't eliminate the Affordable Care Act unless you have a replacement that's as good or better. Otherwise, too many American families will lose their insurance and lose their protection. So we had a hearing a few weeks ago, and I asked the leaders in the health community under the Trump administration a basic question. What have you heard about the Republican substitute for the Affordable Care Act? President Trump has told us over and over and over and over again that it's just a week or two away. So what have you heard about preparing this? And they said, nothing. We've heard nothing. There is no Republican substitute for the Affordable Care Act. They are just duty-bound to eliminate Obamacare. And the consequences, sadly, would be awful. That's what this is about. So if you think, I don't want to tune in to this whole debate about a new Supreme Court justice from Indiana, I don't want to hear all these arguments because what difference does it make to me? If you're that person in America, I would say to you, please, take a look at what we're really facing here. An effort to fill a vacancy on the Supreme Court in a timely way to eliminate the Affordable Care Act. That is what this is all about. Then the president, just for good measure, tossed in another issue last week. How about this one? The first president in the history of the United States to not publicly declare that he would accept the outcome of an election. How about that? That is nothing short of a constitutional outrage that any president would say that. And it's no surprise with this president, because when he was a candidate, he said basically the same thing. If it doesn't turn out that I win, then I'm not sure I'm going to want to live by the results. And he makes up these contrived arguments against paper ballots and how fraudulent they are. There are five states in America that use mail-in ballots exclusively. They include, of course, the state of Oregon, might have been one of the first, but they include the state of Utah as well, Hawaii. Other states do it. How much fraud there? Almost none. But that doesn't stop the president from claiming that mail-in ballots are fraudulent. How does the president vote, incidentally? A mail-in ballot. What hypocrisy for him to make that kind of a statement when he's casting his own vote with a mail-in ballot. So now he said he wants that Supreme Court vacancy filled. Do it now, because I need 9 justices sitting on that Supreme Court if there's any election contest to follow. Well, it's pretty obvious what this is all about. The president needs a sure vote on the Supreme Court. What a shame that we've reached this point, that we've denigrated the United States Senate to the point that we change the rules at our convenience, that we've reached the point where we are prepared to eliminate protections for 20 million Americans with nothing to replace it, and that we've reached a point where a president is so brazen as to say he wants to fill that spot on the Supreme Court just in case he runs into an election contest. You would think there would have been a chorus, a bipartisan chorus of outrage for that statement by the president. Not so. There may have been others, and I'll scour the records to make sure, but 2 Republicans stepped up and said what the president, his public statement on not abiding by election returns, was terrible. Who were those 2? Senator Mitt Romney, here, the only Republican senator I know. If there were more, I'll come back and correct the record. But I heard him clearly say this was intolerable, what the president said. And then the Republican governor of Massachusetts, I watched that press conference. He wasn't just declarative, he was upset to think that any president of either party would make that kind of statement. That's what we're up against. In 2 weeks from yesterday, they want to hold a hearing on the Senate Judiciary Committee on this nominee, Judge Barrett, and they want the vote before the election, before the argument on the Affordable Care Act, and before the president faces any possibility of an election contest. What a point we've reached in this country. And the silence of Republicans across the nation is deafening. They ignore the obvious. You cannot have a viable, trustworthy democracy if you don't have viable, trustworthy elections. And in order to have that happen, you need presidents of both political parties who are committed to fairness, committed to honesty, and committed to our Constitution. Sadly, at this moment in time, we do not have a president who is. And there are too many of his own political party who stand back in the shadows and silence, recanting on pledges they made 4 years ago, doing whatever is necessary to win the favor of this president. I hope another day will come soon with different leadership and a different view of this country. I'm genuinely concerned about what we face on November 3rd and the days that follow. But I've never given up on America, and I never will. I believe this democracy will prevail. I hope that after he's gone, some Republicans will step forward and say, it's time to create a party not in his image. I yield the floor.